Hello, my name is Ronald Messer. While my wife, Linda, and I were visiting the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, a tour guide accosted us. Have you considered, he said, that the right to bear arms only refers to the militia? Because of that extended encounter, I wrote the Second Amendment for Dummies. It is included in Volume 2 of In Defense of Christianity, subtitled Liberty, available on Amazon along with Volume 1, subtitled Freedom. If you will look at the whiteboard on my left, which magically appears from time to time, we can read the Second Amendment together. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is only 27 words, but is incredibly important. Therefore, though there are many others, let me give you 7 rhetorical tools that together we may analyze the Second Amendment. The first tool we shall consider is concept. A concept refers to a class of things. In understanding our world, we like to classify and divide everything. A class is comprised of a group that shares similar attributes. A class goes from general to specific. Citizen is a general class. American citizen is a specific member of that class. The Second Amendment has 5 concepts or 5 classes. A well-regulated militia, security, a free state, right of the people, and arms. Concepts define the subject, but don't tell us what the amendment is really about. Therefore, we need more tools. For our second tool, let's add propositions. A proposition provides action to concepts, thus completing the thought. The concept is found in the nouns, the proposition is found in the verbs. The proposition and the concept together form a complete sentence, thus introducing our third rhetorical tool, assertions. An assertion is a declarative sentence that is either true or false. A sentence requires a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. All the assertions in the Second Amendment are laws that we're expected to honor. To understand all the laws, we must understand all the assertions. The Second Amendment contains 3 explicit assertions, or 3 primary laws. A well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. As you see, I took the assertions straight out of the amendment. They are explicit. I shall refer to them as the 3 primary assertions. Let's take each primary assertion above separately and look for embedded assertions. But first we must add our fourth tool, assumptions. An assumption is implicit or unstated. However, for the assertion to be true, the assumption must also be true. An argument may be perfectly logical, but if the assumptions are false, then the argument is unsound. A critical thinker always considers assumptions. Let's examine primary assertion 1 for assumptions. A well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. It has 2 implicit assertions. Our state is free. Security is necessary to maintain a free state. It has 2 explicit assertions. A militia is necessary to maintain security. To maintain security, the militia must be well regulated. Now, instead of only 1 primary general assertion, we have 4 unique specific assertions. Let's examine the second primary assertion for assumptions. The right of the people to keep arms shall not be infringed. It also has 2 implicit assertions. People have rights. One of the rights is to keep arms. It has only 1 explicit assertion. The right to keep arms shall not be infringed. That brings our total to 7 unique specific assertions. Let's examine the third primary assertion for assumptions. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. It has predictably 2 implicit assertions. People have rights. One of the rights is to bear arms. It has 1 explicit assertion. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Although bearing arms has 3 specific assertions, people have rights is a duplication. Therefore, we can only count 2 unique assertions, bringing our total to 9. But let's consider a 5th rhetorical tool, definitions. which may produce other concepts and other propositions which produce more assertions. Let's examine the definition of infringed, which modifies both the right to keep arms and the right to bear arms. Consulting 3 dictionaries, I found the following definitions of infringed. 1. To encroach upon in a way that violates law or the rights of another. 2. To commit a breach or infraction, to violate or transgress. 3. To actively break the terms. In the definitions of infringed, there are 2 primary concepts: laws of another, the rights of another. The definition also reveals 6 verbs or verb phrases, creating 6 more unique propositions: to encroach, to commit a breach, to commit an infraction, to violate, to transgress, to actively break the terms. Perhaps they could be considered synonyms. However, enough difference exists that each creates a unique assertion. So, if we add the 6 propositions to each of the 2 concepts, that would create 12 additional assertions, 6 for each concept. First, we will apply the 6 proposition to the concept law, or more specifically, the Second Amendment. Government cannot encroach on the Second Amendment. Government cannot violate the Second Amendment. Government cannot breach the Second Amendment. Government cannot commit an infraction on the Second Amendment. Government cannot transgress the Second Amendment, and government cannot break the terms of the Second Amendment. That brings the total number of unique assertions to 15. Now let's apply the 6 propositions to the second concept, rights of another. Government cannot encroach on the rights of another, cannot violate the rights of another, cannot breach the rights of another, cannot commit an infraction on the rights of another, cannot transgress the rights of another, cannot break the terms of the rights of another. That brings the total number of unique assertions to 21. Each assertion is a law of the land embedded in the Second Amendment. Now let me introduce a 6th analytical tool that will reveal additional assertions, the principle of causality. The principle of causality deals with cause and effect. In the natural world, cause must always precede the effect, or we would live in a very strange world. In writing, it changes the dynamics of everything, placing the emphasis on the effect. In writing, the principle of causality is often implicit. To make it explicit, we must add keywords such as because and therefore. For example, because a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state, therefore, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Actually, we can break it down even more, tracing the causal relationship, thus revealing additional assertions. Because we are a free state, therefore we need security. Because we need security, therefore we need a well-regulated militia. Because we need a well-regulated militia, therefore, the people must have the right to keep arms, the people must have the right to bear arms. Do not underestimate the complexity of the English language. At first glance, it appears to add only 2 assertions, but it actually adds 9. The concept of a free state has 4 assertions. Because we are a free state, therefore we need security. Because we are a free state, therefore we need a well-regulated militia. Because we are a free state, therefore the people must have the right to keep arms. Because we are a free state, therefore the people must have the right to bear arms. The concept security has 3 assertions. Because we need security, therefore we need a well-regulated militia. Because we need security, therefore the people must have the right to keep arms. Because we need security, therefore the people must have the right to bear arms. The concept militia has 2 assertions. Because we need a well-regulated militia, therefore the people must have the right to keep arms. Because we need a well-regulated militia, therefore the people must have the right to bear arms. That brings the total number of unique assertions to 30. Remember, this was written by men who fought in the Revolutionary War. America did not have the highly organized militia it has today. It was made of ordinary people who had to leave their milking and go to war at a moment's notice. It was a time of the Minutemen, where the people must be able to keep and bear arms all the time. The amendments adopted in 1791 were meant to be a permanent fixture to the Constitution, meaning they had no termination date. After the war, they went home to their families, but because of the Second Amendment, they were able to keep their arms and to bear their arms. Why? because, as the primary concepts taught us, they were necessary to maintain the rights of the people, the security of the people, the freedom of the people. Now, we must add our seventh and final consideration: intent. Understanding the intent, though it doesn't increase the number of assertions, validates the assertions we have arrived at thus far. The English language is lyrical, lively, vivid, metaphorical, but often ambiguous. It is not made of legalese, and much of the interpretation must depend upon intent. Intent is closely connected to common sense. For over 200 years, all Americans understood the true intent of the Second Amendment. Common sense seems to be a rare commodity today, but what common sense doesn't provide, logic to a rational person can supply. It is easy to determine intent, as we did with the Second Amendment. First, we list the concepts. Second, we list the propositions. Third, we list the assertions. Every assertion which deals with the propositions and concepts reveals their intent. We arrived at these assertions by applying the rhetorical tools of concepts, propositions, assertions, assumptions, definitions, the principle of causality, intent. As you can see on the whiteboard, the Second Amendment has 30 unique assertions. Therefore, the Second Amendment has 30 laws that we must obey. Now, let us go back to my liberal friend at the National Constitution Center, who advocates that the right to keep and bear arms refers only to the militia. An example of the philosophy of the left appears in the advanced placement exam. The liberal version appears in the gray. To make it easier to read, I shall print out the new liberal version of the Second Amendment. The people have the right to keep and bear arms in a state militia. If the modern liberal version of the Second Amendment is what our forefathers had meant, that is what they would have written. Compare the original version of the Second Amendment with the liberal version. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The people have the right to keep and bear arms in state militia. By reducing the 27 words of the original amendment to only 14, the liberals eviscerated the Second Amendment. Of the 5 major concepts, the liberals changed number 1, entirely left out numbers 2 and 3, distorted 4, and banned 5, which violates the entire purpose and intent of the Second Amendment. Of the 30 assertions in the Second Amendment, the liberals kept only 2. Only a state militia has the right to bear arms. Only a state militia has the right to keep arms. Where does it say in the Second Amendment that only a state militia has the right to keep or bear arms? Do not underestimate their cunning nature and the inherent dishonesty in their tactics. We need to guard against any changes in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. If you change the concepts, you change the meaning. If you change the propositions, you change the assertions. If you change the assertions, you change the laws. Each assertion is a declaration of intent and becomes a law. The liberals chop up the Second Amendment to match their own ideology and ignore the laws of the land and the rights and the will of the people. We must preserve our Constitution.